Time, if all members of our General Assembly, I know I said not to stand, but if you stand carefully, we'd like you to stand so we can recognize you as well. And thank you so much for your support for veterans. I would also at this time, I think Mr. Matt Meyer is here from Newcastle County. Our commissioners from the Delaware Commission of Veterans Affairs, off to my left here. Our executive director for the Delaware Commission of Veterans Affairs and the Delaware Office of Veteran Services, Joshua Maddox. And these are some real important people here. The executive director of the Delaware River and Bay Authority, Tom Cook. And Mr. Sam Latham from the DRBA, from the Delaware River and Bay Authority as well. And we also have one of our representatives, Representative Chukocha, is here today. And so Representative Chukocha, you just hold your hand up there. Yeah. We would like to thank all of our local officials and service members, veteran service organizations, family members, and all veterans in attendance. Representative Chukocha also has another title, very important title. He is our Poet Laureate for the state of Delaware. And we would like him to come forward at this time and pay tribute to our veterans.
Mr. President, Governor, everyone, I wrote this poem thinking of my days in Fort Wainwright, Alaska as an infantryman. And you remember running, carrying your guide on, and all of the streamers that were connected to the guide on that represented all of the battles and conflicts that my battalion was a part of had a lot of weight to it. And it was with that weight that I wrote this poem as I thought about Memorial Day today. And it's called Our Obligation. Some say that Memorial Day is just the unofficial start of summer. But here in the heart of our nation, in the first state, the very start of our nation, there is a difference. We know that today is a day of significance, a day of remembrance to the known and unknown, honoring those who came home and those who didn't, showing our respect to those who gave themselves to their mission, those who came home forever scarred and struggled with the transition. It is our obligation to recognize and heal our nation's pain, our wounded warriors, and Gold Star families, those families forever changed. We are a nation that is never silent on things that matter, standing strong on our duty, our commitment, our courage, our allegiance, and our valor, honoring those who served, acknowledging the sacrifices that made America great. We are America, and this is our obligation, the obligation to our nation, remembering the men and women who served, fulfilling their duties far beyond words. It's remembering their strength that make our nation strong. Today is the day that we remember. We pray that America will never be a forgotten nation, a nation that forgets those unforgettable days, those sacrifices made, our POW and our MIA, those never brought home, those resting in unmarked graves. We remember. We remember you, for it is our duty, it is our obligation to honor in remembrance the service and the sacrifice to those made for our nation. We must honor and protect those who protected us. This is our obligation. This is our obligation. See, we must teach our children that our freedoms are not free. There is a cost for each of us, and it begins with us paying our respects. This is our nation, and this is our obligation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Chukocha. For all the veterans out there, and especially all of you that are in the enlisted community, the NCOs, we know that when we serve, we evaluate leadership. And we're very careful at how we select the leaders and how we follow the leaders that are taking us into combat. And we recognize those that are great. We recognize those that maybe need a little work, a little more push from the NCOs. And I will tell you that it's an honor for me at this time to introduce to you a leader who I evaluate as an outstanding leader. And I know he likes to go by the name of Governor, but I kind of think of him for the last 18 months. He's kind of almost like the name of Admiral for me, because he's been in combat for 18 months. And he's led this state through a horrific time and done a masterful job at it. And Admiral works well because he's done it admirably. So it gives me great pleasure at this time to introduce to you our governor, Governor John Carney.
Thank you, Chuck. Admiral, I'll take that. Particularly over the last year. What a beautiful day. Might be raining out there, Mr. President. With that big smile of yours, it certainly is warm here. I want to first acknowledge Charles, Chuck, for your being the MC and chair, and for your work yesterday. What a great event we had down at the Veterans Cemetery. Thank you to those who were able to join us, Drew, to you, and so many folks. So it was a great event. A little cold. Somebody said normally on Memorial Day events we don't have coats and sweaters on. I was just happy to be there without a mask on, to be honest with you. Mr. President, we got to give thanks to you and your team for doing so much incredible work getting folks vaccinated over the first 100 days of your administration. This is a really special day to have you with us, Mr. President. As you know, you have been as reliable as anybody coming to this event. For over 50 years, I think, 36 years or so as our United States Senator. You were here as Vice President. Really special to have you here today as our President. And you know, we start by acknowledging our Veterans Commission for their great work, Chuck for his chairmanship, and recognizing Secretary of State and his team for helping put this together, Tom Cook. Mr. Chairman, Sam, thanks for the work of the DRBA and putting this together once again for all of us. But most of all, we're honored and proud to have you here, Mr. President. As I said, there are few people who've attended this event more reliably than you have. Many of those people are here, and I can see, Judy, that you're in your assigned seats right here in the front row. Resilience, strength, sacrifice, the kind of values that Nnamdi's poem spoke to. We used to have a saying when I was in the Congress, Nnamdi, that I'd like to associate with the comments of the gentleman from North Wilmington, because that was extraordinary. And it talked about our obligation. It talked about those values. Those are the values that we honor here every Memorial Day. First and foremost, we remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. We say their names. We pray for their eternal rest. And we comfort our Gold Star families who live with that loss every day. This past year, the rest of the country got a glimpse of what it really means to live out those values, the values our men and women in uniform live by every day. We could not have made it through this pandemic if it weren't for the sacrifices, large and small, of every Delawarean and every American. In particular, General Berry and his National Guard men and women deserve our deepest thanks. They have been the backbone of our pandemic response here in Delaware. Whatever we asked, they were out there willing to do. More than ever, General Vavla, General Timmons, they have stepped up to the plate and been there for every Delawarean. They've been relentless in the commitment to protecting our citizens. They were deployed overseas and in Washington, D.C. to protect the Capitol. Help me again publicly thank General Berry and his team for their incredible work over the past year. I also want to thank the staff at the Delaware Veterans Home. Over 15 months of this pandemic, with one of the most vulnerable populations to COVID-19, our staff down there has been unbelievable in protecting those veterans. To date, no one has passed for COVID-19 at our Veterans Home. And our incredible VA hospital here in Wilmington has been one of our biggest partners during this pandemic. Director Vince Kane and his team came up big as well. They have been on our calls on a weekly basis. They have vaccinated nearly 70% of the 25,000 veterans who get their health care from the VA. 70%. That puts Delaware in the top 10 in the nation for vaccinations, and we thank you for that incredible work. None of that should be surprising to all of us who gather here today. This ethic of sacrifice and selflessness is what we've come here today to remember and honor. And it's a collective sacrifice, made by the fallen, of course, but also made by our Gold Star families, here reliably year after year. And for them, it's a sacrifice that doesn't end. And neither does our debt of gratitude to those for making it. Of course, the best way to honor the dead is to take care of the living. And that's what our military has done over this past year. I think it's so fitting that one of the first large events without masks, Hunter, unless you're too young to be vaccinated, calls upon us to reflect and remember, to give thanks and to honor. And that's what we do today. Thank you, all of you, for coming to meet that obligation that Nnamdi spoke of so eloquently. I've had some great privileges as governor, but no more important than this one. And it's my distinct privilege to introduce the man who helped us lead our country out of the darkness and into the light. Our nation's leader, our commander-in-chief, Delaware's favorite son, and our good friend, the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's good to be here on this solemn occasion with so many friends. Governor Carney, Senator Carper, Attorney General Kathy Jennings, General Barry, it's good to see you, and thank you for everything you do for the Delaware National Guard. By the way, I saw General Vavla this morning. He's become not only a general, but a great friend. A great friend. He was at Bo's Memorial Mass this morning. Thank you for being there, General. I appreciate it. And by the way, Hunter has had one shot, not two, and he's just making sure everybody's okay. Me and my family, we've tried to participate in this event every year because it's an important tradition in the Delaware community. Even last year, in those early dark days of the pandemic, Jill and I didn't want to let Memorial Day pass like every other day, and there was no event here. but we came to lay a wreath at the plaza. It was the first time we did any sort of event since the lockdown had begun in March, because we were determined to honor the fallen, to pay tribute to the women and men who braved every danger, who made the ultimate sacrifice for the country. Because as a nation, we must always remember. Always remember. We must remember the price that was paid for our liberties. We must remember the debt we owe those who have paid it, the families left behind. My heart is torn in half by the grief. The communities are never whole again. Folks, it's also an important tradition in our family. As many of you know, this is a hard day for us. 6 years ago today, Hunter lost his dad and I lost my son. It's the first year of his passing back in 2016. General Vavala did a great honor in inviting us to a ceremony renaming the Delaware National Guard headquarters in Bo's honors. By the way, I'd note that when Bo made the grade of major in Iraq, I said, I'd been in and out of Iraq over 25 times. I said, Bo, you're now a field grade officer. He said, Dad, I have no illusion who runs the United States Army. It's the master sergeants. They run the Army. Well, I woke up that morning hearing Bo in my ear saying, not me, Dad. Today's not about me. It's Memorial Day. You should be over at the bridge. And you know, if he were here, he would be here as well, paying his respects to all those who gave so much for our country, and particularly honoring the Gold Star families. You know, a lot of time passes, but you all know better than I do, or as well as I do, that the moment that we celebrate it is the toughest day of the year. We're honored, but it's a tough day. It brings back everything. And so I can't thank you enough for your continued service to the country. And your sons, your daughters, they live on in your hearts and in their children as well. And we have to carry on without them. But I know how hard it is for you. Bo didn't die in the line of duty, but he was serving the Delaware National Guard unit in Iraq for a year. That was one of the proudest things he did in his life. So thank you for allowing us to grieve together today. I know how much the loss hurts. I know the black hole that leaves in the middle of your chest. It feels like you may get sucked into it and not come out. Greetings like this in gatherings help. And while I know nothing I can say to ease the pain, I just know that each year it gets a little bit easier. And I promise you the day will come when the mention of the name of your son or daughter, husband, wife, they will in fact bring not a tear to your eye, but a smile to your lips. Folks, and I hope that day comes sooner than later. Folks, you know, despite all the pain, I know the pride you feel in the loved one and that you lost, and those who are still serving. The pride and the bravery and the service to our great American experiment. Our military community is the solid spine of this country. It's literally the spine of the nation. And on my first Memorial Day as Commander-in-Chief, I want to reaffirm my long-standing belief. We may have many obligations as a nation, but we only have one truly sacred obligation, and that's to equip those we send into harm's way with all they need and care for them and their families when they return home and when they don't. And all of us who remain have a duty to renew our commitment to the fundamental values to our nation in their honor. The values that have inspired generation after generation to service, and that so many have died to defend. Every day since I was vice president, I've carried with me a card with the exact number of troops killed in our operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. Not an approximation or a rounded number, an accounting of every life laid down for our country over the 20 years of war. Today, it's 7,036 military members, fallen angels, have given the last full measure of devotion, as Lincoln termed it, in those modern conflicts. And we'll never forget. They were the guardians, and we're the guardians. They're the guardians of us, and we're the guardians of their legacy, the inheritors of their mission, and the living testament to their sacrifice that is not going to be in vain. Because every American democracy endures. We have been tested, and we surely test it further. But I know that we as a people are up to the task. Each generation of Americans receives a precious gift of liberty, and we work to share it with more people, to make our country more open, more free, more fair, to bring us closer to making our American creed a reality for all Americans, that all women and men are created equal, that all women and men equally deserve to be treated with dignity, that all men and women deserve equal rights, equal protection to build their futures for their families and hope and opportunity. The American creed is the connective tissue that binds us. It's a long chain of patriots that come before us and those who will follow us in turn. That creed holds that the ideals that inspire people to service and that fill us with pride when we see our loved ones put on that uniform, and our progress toward that creed together as one nation, united and preserved through their sacrifices, is the best and strongest memorial to their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, America is unique. It's an idea. Unlike any other country in the world, it is formed based on an idea. Almost every other country is based on a creed, a religion, a geography, an ethnicity. But not us. We're based on an idea that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. We're unique in the world. I had a long conversation for 2 hours recently with President Xi, making it clear to him that we could do nothing but speak out for human rights around the world because that's who we are. I'll be meeting with President Putin in a couple weeks in Geneva, making it clear that we will not stand by and let him abuse those rights. Folks, we're unique in all of history. We really are. But those names etched on that wall and every other wall and tombstone in America of veterans is the reason why we're able to stand here. We can't kid ourselves about that. And so I hope that the nation comes together. We're not Democrats or Republicans today. We're Americans. We're Americans who've given their lives. And it's time we remind everybody who we are. Thank you all for being here. May God bless you all, particularly the Gold Star families and survivors. And may God protect our troops because they're still out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. At this time, I have the honor of introducing our U.S. Senator, our senior U.S. Senator, retired Navy captain, which I'm very proud of. And I mentioned to the Senator yesterday that if he ever decided to leave the Senate and go back into the Navy, I wanted to be his Command Master Chief. And I really meant that. That's from the heart. And at this moment, I would like to introduce to you our senior Senator, Tom Carper.
I'd be honored to be your commanding officer. Let me just say, John Carney, our governor, said to me, when you were about to introduce me, he said to me, what did you do to draw the straw that makes you speak after the president? You have to follow the president. Chuck, I just said, I'm just glad I don't have to follow Frank Vavala.
Yeah.
Among the best folks I ever nominated to serve in my cabinet, John Carney, Secretary of Finance. Lisa Blunt Rochester, Secretary of Labor. Frank Vavala, National Guard. Adjutant General. What do you think? Pretty good lineup, huh? Pretty good lineup. Well, I want to thank you, Chuck, for the pleasure, the honor of being here with you. And Martha and I are delighted to come. She doesn't get to come every year, but she said she wanted to come this year. She was not just to hear me speak. I'm not sure what it was, President. She said she hears me often enough. But I want to begin by welcoming, as John has done and others have done, welcoming the 46th President of the United States. Joe's press person, I think her name is Jen Psaki. Is that right? Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki was recently asked, she says, why does Joe Biden keep going home to Delaware? Why does he keep going back to Delaware? She responded, the president lives in Wilmington. She went on to say, it's his home. That's where he lived for many years. And I would just say to that, Mr. President, keep coming home. Keep coming home. And I would add, we will leave the light on. We will leave the light on. When President-elect Joe Biden and Jill were getting ready to head down for Washington, D.C., we had an opportunity to send them off over by the Beau Biden Center, National Guard Center, headquarters. And I had the opportunity, before they left, to share with them the words of a wonderful Methodist minister from Seaford, Delaware, Reverend Reynolds, whose son coached the football team down the road at William Penn for many years, Bruce Reynolds, and we have some of our legislators here, was a member of the state legislature for probably 20 years. But his dad, Reverend Reynolds, said to me just before I was inaugurated as governor, he said, I have some words of advice for you, Governor Tom. And I said, what would that be, Pastor? And he said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. I said, would you say that again? And he said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. I said, I think I got it. And it was time for Joe and Jill to climb in a helicopter or head out for our nation's capital. I shared with him those words of advice. And I said, Mr. President, Mr. President-elect, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And he said, would you say that again? And I did. And I said, and the main thing is to vaccinate this country. Not just a couple of million, not just tens of millions, but hundreds of millions of people. Every single arm, everybody who wants and will accept a vaccination, let's get them vaccinated. And Mr. President, let me just say, we looked up the numbers, and as of January 1st, about 3 million people have been vaccinated in this country. And the numbers I just heard from last week, 164 million people, at least one dose, and 40% of all Americans, 40% of all Americans are fully vaccinated. That is the main thing. That is the main thing. Today, we're back at school. We're back in business. Going to go see movies, concerts, we're eating restaurants. Someday the sun will come out, the rain will stop, and we'll go to the beach. That can't happen too soon either, I'll tell you. But the progress we made, is everybody knows, is not just made possible by a great president or a great governor. We're blessed with both of them. I love John, and I'm so proud of the job that he has. Give him another round of applause. So what a great job he's done. But we all know the progress we've made has been made possible by many hands. But let's just go ahead. They're not here, but They're all over this state. Let's put our hands together to thank them. Just give them a nice one for everybody. Everybody that's part of this team. I love to quote Winston Churchill. I haven't quoted Winston Churchill, president, since yesterday. I'll do it again. Winston Churchill used to say these words: when you're going through hell, keep going. Let me hear you say that. When you're going through hell, keep going. All right. And that's, a lot of people have been through hell. And we have kept going. We've had the leadership to make sure that we do. I'm also reminded of something else on this Memorial Day that Winston Churchill said, and he said these words. He said, the further back we look, the further forward we see. Think about that. The further back we look, the further forward we see. The freedoms that we enjoy today were won and have been preserved by generation after generation of Americans, men and women, who've answered the call to serve us in times of war and of peace. We owe these heroes and heroines a debt of gratitude. Foremost among them are the 14 Delawareans who are recipients of the Medal of Honor. 14 of them. And I just want to say, if you ever have the opportunity to read the reason why they were selected to receive the Medal of Honor, for God's sake, read it. Incredible, incredible stories. And we don't have time to do it all today, but I just want to mention the name of the first recipient of the Medal of Honor during the Civil War, 1865, was from Stanton, Delaware. His name was David Buckingham. David Buckingham, and part of his honor, he swam Virginia, a river that was mostly frozen to lead an effort there to help turn the tide near the end of the Civil War. Can you imagine doing that? Let me mention one other name. And this name will be a little more familiar. If you've been down to the Veterans Cemetery lately, as you pull into the Veterans Cemetery, there's a huge sign that says Sergeant James P. Connor. Sergeant James P. Connor was from Wilmington, and he served in World War II. He was involved in the, see if I can get the name right here, involved in the invasion of a place in southern France, Cape Calavera. This was part of the invasion. Everybody knows about Normandy. Not everybody knows about the Cape Calavera. But here's what I just want to read briefly what he did. Just a little bit of what he did that day back in August 15th, 1944. He was assigned to a battle unit whose mission was to destroy enemy fortifications there at that beach as the troops were about to come in and storm the beaches. Though seriously wounded by a mine that killed his platoon, Lieutenant Sergeant Connor refused medical aid and inspired the men to cross a mine-saturated beach under intense fire. With the death of his next senior officer, Sergeant Connor became the platoon leader. Though wounded again and again, he led the patrol through nearly impregnable mortar concentrations. Despite receiving a third and a fourth wound, which rendered him unable to stand, Sergeant Connor to continue to give orders and direct the assault. Reduced to less than one-third of its original strength, his patrol, badly decimated, took all of their assigned objectives, successfully completing their mission, saving many lives. The liberation of France was underway, the tide had turned, and who was there to help make it happen? Delaware's James P. Connor. Let's give him a round of applause. It turns out not all the men who've fallen in combat were able to remember today. In fact, as it turns out, not all the folks who've been heroes, not all the heroes are men. Now, all those Medal of Honor recipients are men, but not all the heroes are men. I'm reminded here today as we gather close to Newcastle of a young woman named Elizabeth Lonke. If you remember that name, raise your hand. Elizabeth Lonke. Elizabeth Lonke served as a senior airman. She went to St. Peter's Church, St. Peter's School, right down here, right down the road. She's a graduate of Padua, and she volunteered to serve in the Air Force. She volunteered to serve and to go be trained down at Eglin Air Force Base as an explosive ordnance specialist. Some of the most dangerous missions are performed by those people. They neutralize and make harmless explosive ordinances. They save lives of innocent people. And one day, she's on duty with her team of 2 other men, and they were targeted by a car bomber near Baghdad as they were disarming a bomb that was meant to kill scores of innocent people. And she gave up her life to save theirs. She gave up her life to save theirs. Before I close, I want to tell you a quick story about one other woman, somebody the President knows well. John may know her well as well, from his time in the House of Representatives. Her name's Tammy Duckworth. Tammy Duckworth. They served together in the House. Tammy Duckworth arrives at work every day in the United States Senate during session. She arrives in a wheelchair. She doesn't have a right leg. She has just part of her left leg. She volunteered. She was born in Bangkok, Thailand. Her dad was a Marine. She came to this country and grew up here in this country, educated here, ended up in the military, did a lot of things with her life, but she ended up as a lieutenant colonel in the Illinois Army National Guard. She was deployed to Iraq, And on a mission there, on her helicopter, Black Hawk helicopter, struck by a rocket-propelled grenade. Copter crashed. She almost died. She survived. She is amazing. She may be one of the 2 most amazing women I've ever met in my life, Martha Carver. And she serves as a member of the Environment and Public Works Committee, in which I'm privileged to lead. And comes to work every day, cheerful, in her wheelchair, goes everywhere, speaks on the floor, introduces bills, helps write bills, pass bills, always a smile, never like, woe is me, goes home on weekends, mother of 2 young girls. I mean, can you believe it? Can you believe it? She's just written a book, and the name of the book, Tammy Duckworth. Soldier, senator, mother. Give her a round of applause. What a woman. What a woman. Well, I'll close it by asking a question. What do James Conner, known as Jimmy, what is James Conner, what is Elizabeth Lincoln, what do Tammy Duckworth have in common? A number of things. They love this country. They have served this country. In case of Tammy, she still serves with distinction. They've shown extraordinary courage throughout their lives. All of them took the same oath to defend this country of ours and its Constitution. Same Constitution. Same Constitution we took an oath to defend and uphold against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Constitution was first ratified just 50 miles down the road in Dover, Delaware. On January 6th, we got a wake-up call, and we were reminded that our democracy is more fragile than we'd ever imagined. More fragile than we'd ever imagined. And just as it took remarkable courage and devotion to win our freedom in the most unfair fight ever, 13 little colonies here, taking on the most mightiest nation in the world, and we beat them. We beat them fair and square to establish this country and literally to be a democracy that everyone throughout the planet could live up to. Well, just as it took remarkable courage all those years ago to win our freedom and to preserve it over the last 2.5 centuries, it falls on all of us today to do our part, to do our share, to preserve it. I want to close with the words of not Winston Churchill. Well, I'd love to. I've got a bunch of them. Words of Ben Franklin. Some of you may remember when Franklin emerged from, I think it was Constitutional Hall, after the Constitution had been drafted, he was asked by a passerby, he said, What have you wrought? What have you done? What have you delivered? What have you created here? Franklin replied famously, he said, a republic, if we can keep it. A republic, if we can keep it. I carry with me, just about every day, this baby right here. This is our Constitution. And I think most of us probably read it a time or two, maybe when we had to as kids in school, maybe even a time or two for some inspiration. But the Constitution is long. The preamble that comes right at the beginning of it is short. And I know Command Chief said we were going to ask people to stand, but if you're able to stand, I'm going to ask you to stand and join me in reciting the preamble to our nation's Constitution. Please stand if you can. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, I think you are. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America forever and ever. I just added that last part. God bless you all. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Please be seated. Toward the end of the program, we'll be handing out some little notes to all of you, and we're going to do a little quiz on the preamble, though. That comes from the principal. Okay, at this time, there's a couple little tidbits that I need to share with all of you, and one is very important, is that several years ago, when our current president was vice president, Delaware was recognized as being so important to veterans because we ended veterans' homelessness. We were the first state to do that. And President Obama recognized us at that time. And so we have a wonderful gentleman here today who's sitting way back there. He came all the way from Dover, Mayor Christensen. And if I could ask the mayor and Bill Farley to please stand up. And thank you so much. Thank you for doing that, and I thank you for coming here today. And they are also now, they've taken on a new challenge. They've just accepted a new challenge from our government to take on veteran suicide prevention. And, great Delawareans and just wonderful folks. And one other quick note, I, as chairman of the commission, certainly I hear a lot from veterans about different things that are going on in the state, but one of the things that I don't hear, and I'm so happy that the governor brought this up, is that our VA facility has got to be one of the best in the country. Under the leadership of Vince Kane, and the wonderful people that he works with there, I hear nothing but, wow, you know, nothing new's happened at the VA, and the VA is getting better and better and better. And so, Mr. Kane, we owe you a deep debt of gratitude for the way you've run that wonderful hospital especially for the last 18 months. So thank you again, Mr. Kane. Okay, at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our last speaker, but one of our most important speakers for today, is going to be our top general, our top military man in the state of Delaware. Delaware has had a run. We are the New England Patriots of adjutant generals. We started with Frank Vavala, and for 16, or I don't know how many years it was, it just seemed like it was a lot. General Vavala did a great job with our National Guard. Then he turned it over to the wonderful, and tragically we've lost her, the wonderful Carol Timmons, who took that and carried right on with it. Just a wonderful National Guard. And now, after those two acts, we thought we could never follow it up, but guess what? We followed it up with General Mike Berry. And General Berry, would you please come forward for the remarks?
Sir. Well, good morning, everyone. First, I would like to begin by thanking retired U.S. Navy Command Master Chief Chuck Baldwin and all of the members of the Delaware Commission of Veterans Affairs for hosting the event today as well as the event yesterday down at our Veterans Memorial Cemetery. Let's please give them all another round of applause. And it is great to see such a turnout this morning, and it's an honor for me to be representing your Delaware National Guard and all branches of our military during our Memorial Day ceremony. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to address the presence of both my commanders-in-chief, President Biden and Governor Carney. As many of you are aware, my role as the Adjutant General of the Delaware National Guard allows me the opportunity to serve the governor in a state capacity as a member of the cabinet, manning, equipping, and training our soldiers and airmen for any domestic missions. And of course, my federal role allows me to serve the president in preparing our servicemen and women for fighting our nation's wars. And after many years of observing both of these longtime public servants, I'm comfortable in saying that for all three of us, how fortunate we are to have the opportunity to ultimately serve the American people on a daily basis. For that is who we all truly work for and represent. Gentlemen, it's an honor to be with you both here today. I'd like to begin my remarks, as I always do, by asking for a show of hands from all of our veterans. Please just raise your hands up high. Let's give them a round of applause. And now, how about a show of hands for the family members of our veterans? Raise your hands up high. To the families, thank you for supporting our veterans. Now today, we have the opportunity to honor the over 1 million Americans who've given their lives while in service to our country. And we are continuing a proud tradition held each year in May, which began as early as 1865. And annual ceremonies held throughout our country have solidified the understanding that all American citizens have an obligation to always remember those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. In recognition of this sacrifice, an unknown speaker is quoted. Our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier who died protecting it. This morning, we are participating in a ceremony that is so much larger than the recognition of our fallen heroes. This ceremony is about creating a link between all members of our society and those that have answered the call to serve. All of us are saying thank you for your commitment and dedication, and should the tragedy of losing a warrior occur, we, the American people, are here to fulfill our end of an unwritten contract. We, the citizens of the United States, are honoring a contract that we make every day as our young men and women raise their right hands and make an oath to serve and protect our citizens at home and abroad. This contract requires all of us to appreciate the risks inherent in the profession of arms and to never forget the sacrifice when one of our warriors lose his or her life performing his or her duties. Currently, less than 1/2 of 1% of our population serve in the armed forces. And every day that percentage drops. As the numbers of veterans in our population decrease, so does that connection between the citizens and the soldiers. And that connection must remain strong. For this connection, it has a direct impact on our nation's tendencies towards conflict. As long as our population stays true, it will fully understand that contract and realize that our most precious national resource, our servicemen and women, should only be put in harm's way when absolutely necessary. As military and civilian leaders debate the use of our military forces, this bond will be front and center. The population will be joined hand in hand with the servicemen and women and ensure their services are used with caution. Personal biases or views will not detract from their support of our servicemen and women who are following their orders and fulfilling their mission requirements. It's important to recognize that all wars have common themes. They cause death and sorrow, families' lives are disrupted, significant events are missed. But they also create those bonds between those who serve and the citizens they serve. These bonds are what encourage our religious, our business, our social, and our veterans organizations to provide the financial, emotional, and physical support programs available to our veterans, all of which reduce the risk involved in military service. As we grow up in our society, we have an obligation to recognize just how fortunate we are to be citizens of the United States. Each of us benefits from all of the freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution, as well as the political, social, and financial advantages that we enjoy every day. I can spend hours talking about civic responsibilities. However, what is important today is to recognize that none of these freedoms would exist without the sacrifice of our veterans of our armed forces and their willingness to lay down their lives in support of America's freedoms. I base this statement on the fact that with the stability provided by our armed forces in a world full of constant strife and turmoil, our country is secure in its existence. Throughout the history of our nation, our armed forces have answered the call and defended our nation and our way of life. Without a doubt, we are the greatest military, political, and financial force in the world. And we depend on the 1/2 of 1% who volunteer to be the backbone of our nation and protect our political and military power throughout the world. We recognize there are threats out there, as we've seen since the founding of our great nation, and continue to see on a daily basis. But our security all comes down to the professionalism of our armed forces and the willingness to answer the call when needed. For all of you, I offer a sincere thank you for supporting our troops and attending events such as this. I am a military member, a military spouse, and a military father. And I am proud to witness so many of our citizens who have taken time out of their lives this weekend to pay tribute to our nation's fallen. Events such as these put my mind at ease, knowing the military heroes are not going it alone and have the support and backing of our nation. 34 years after my military career began, it is heartwarming to witness the honoring of the unwritten contract. And I am certain, despite the loss of a family member or a friend in military service, our Gold Star families in attendance will feel the love and the compassion in our midst and understand their loss is not in vain, and recognize that continuing generations of Americans are willing to carry on the fulfillment of the unwritten contract. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you so much, General. So we've heard from our country, from our state, and from our military about a tribute to the fallen heroes and great leaders all, and how fortunate we are for this type of leadership. So at this time, we're going to prepare for our floral tribute, and we're going to do it a little bit differently this year. In the past, we've had each organization come up and put a flower into the wreath. This year, we're going to have the wreath placed up front here. And as I call the organization's name, if you wish to stand carefully and provide a salute, that's certainly appropriate. But we're just going to ask you to stay at your seat, and you can recognize it in that regard. So, we're going to bring over the wreath at this time. I will call out the organizations, and at that, like I said, you may stand at the time. The first organization that we would like to have is the American Gold Star Mothers. Thank you. Next are our Gold Star families. Next, the President of the United States, Joseph Biden. The Honorable John Carney, our Governor. The Honorable Bethany Hall Long, our Lieutenant Governor. The Honorable Thomas Carper, U.S. Senator. Who is not represented today or couldn't be here with us today, but they certainly want their names read, is the Honorable Chris Coons and the Honorable Lisa Blunt Rochester, our U.S. Congresswoman. Both of them asked that we make sure that we did that. The Honorable Jeffrey Bullock, Secretary of State. The Delaware General Assembly. The Air Force Sergeants Association. American ex-POWs, Delaware Chapter 1. The American Legion. And the American Legion Auxiliary Department of New Jersey. The American Veterans. American of Polish Descent Cultural Society. Association of the U.S. Army, the Delaware chapter. Colonial Paralyzed Veterans of America. The Delaware Commission of Veterans Affairs. The Delaware Military Heritage and Education Foundation. The Delaware National Guard. The Delaware Office of Veteran Services. The Delaware Patriot Guard. The Delaware River and Bay Authority. the Delaware Society Daughters of the American Revolution, the Delaware Society the Sons of the American Revolution, Delaware Veterans Incorporated, Delaware Veterans Coalition, the Delaware Veterans Home, Department of Veterans Affairs Medical Center, Disabled American Veterans, Dover Air Force Base, First State Military Women Warriors, Fleet Reserve Association, Heroes Welcome, Hogs and Heroes Delaware, the Jewish War Veterans, Department of Delaware, the Kamikaze Survivors Association, the Korean War Veterans Association of Delaware, the Marine Corps League, Auxiliary Department of Delaware, the Marine Corps League and Auxiliary Department of New Jersey, the Military Officers Association, Military Order of the Cootie Auxiliary Grand of Delaware, the Military Order of the Cootie Auxiliary Grand of New Jersey, the Military Order of the Devil Dogs, Pack of Delaware, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, the Military Order of World Wars, the National Association of Black Veterans, Delaware Chapter 94, the Pilgrim Baptist Church Veterans Ministry, the Purple Heart Riders, the Scottish American Military Society, the First State Camp, the Silent Service Motorcycle Club, Sons of the Union Veterans of the Civil War, the Reserve Officer Association of Delaware, the U.S. War Dogs Association, United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, United States Marine Corps, United States Navy, United States Coast Guard, United States Navy Cruiser Sailors Association, United States Navy Submarine Veterans, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Auxiliary Department of Delaware, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Auxiliary Department of New Jersey, Vietnam Veterans of America, Delaware, Vietnam Veterans Motorcycle Club, Warrant Officers Association, First State Chapter. If your organization was not called and you wish to honor our veterans, you are certainly welcome to please stand and salute at this time. At this moment, we're going to welcome back the notables of the Brandywiners Choral, and they are going to perform for us, God Bless America.
Let us all be great.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful rendition. Please remain standing for our volley and the honor guard, who will be playing taps. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Would you please remain, though, at your seats, though, until the official party departs? Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that.